Hey everybody, it's Josh Robert Thompson, and welcome back to the Periscope. Um, Sorry, just fixing some things here. Nice to see everybody. Come on in. I just thought that I would take a moment to honor the legacy of James Horner, one of the great film composers of our time, who very sadly passed away yesterday, all too soon, and in a very very tragic way. James Horner was very important to me as a kid because one of my favorite movie scores ever, other than the work of John Williams and the Star Wars movies, was a film called Willow, which also was made by Lucasfilm, and was an idea that George Lucas had, and half of that movie is really James Horner's classic theme. The entire score, if you can find it, is really worth a listen. And I used to go to I grew up in Ohio. I grew up in Cleveland, and I used to go to the Cuyahoga County Public Library and check out records. One of the records that I would listen to all the time was Willow on vinyl. And over the years, I wasn't able to find it anymore. It was out of print for quite a while and very, very difficult to obtain. Now, of course, you can find it digitally. But so I'm going to begin tonight. This is one of the musical shows that we do. Some of you may not be used to it. So when I play the music, you will not see anything on the screen because it's just about the music. This is sort of my little fictitious radio station, or radio show rather. And one of the shows that I enjoyed listening to in high school, junior high school era for me, was late 80s, early 90s. And there was a show called The Music of Science Fiction and Fantasy on, Josh, please don't get mad tonight. Anyway, I used to listen to The Music of Science Fiction and Fantasy on WCSB 89.3 FM. You can still listen to 89.3 FM online now, which is fantastic, and it was one of my favorite stations growing up as a kid. If you haven't seen Willow in a while, check it out. It's, I really like George Lucas. I know some of you know that already, and it's funny how his movies over time tend to get better with age, I think. We were talking about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull last night. Willow is one of them. I remember when Willow came out, and it did not do very well at the box office. And it came out at a time when people were growing tired of fantasy films. Believe it or not, there was a time when the fantasy film was not king. And a lot of those fantasy movies that we grew up with did really, really poorly, believe it or not. Legend and Labyrinth and Willow, all of those films did very, very poorly at the box office. But they've all gone on, I think, certainly Willow, all of them have gone on to become great successes. So anyway, I'm going to play, and also Krull. We'll be playing some of the music of Krull as well. Probably my second favorite James Horner score of all time is from Krull, which is another great movie. So let's start things off with Willow, since we've been talking about it, and be back in a bit. Something a little different. That is a different interpretation of James Horner's Willow theme by the Cincinnati Pops Orchestra. I had a little bit of trouble finding the original piece, just the way that I have things set up over here. But a great interpretation nonetheless, and a little shout out there to the hometown of Ohio. Let's move on to another piece here that I really love. My second favorite James Horner score. We'll just go right into it. And this is James Horner conducting. And this is Ride of the Fire Mares. Ride of the Fire Mares, one of my favorite tracks from a movie called Krull. If you haven't seen it, please do. It's a really wonderful fantasy film. Reminds me a lot of John Carter, or John Carter of Mars, which was another really misunderstood fantasy movie that didn't do very well at the box office, but I believe will, in the years to come, become sort of a cult favorite. It's a really wonderful movie, and it reminded me a lot of Krull. So here is James Horner's Ride of the Fire Mares from Krull. One of my favorite pieces from the score to Krull, and certainly one of my favorite fantasy films as a kid. This is Josh Robert Thompson, and you are listening to WJRT, and or KJRT. It's WJRT, that's what I call it. And this is my show. The musical tribute to James Horner, one of the most brilliant film composers of our time, and we lost him. Well, it's W because I'm from. Oh God. Anyway, let's continue. That was Ride of the Firemares from Krull, and one of my favorite scenes in that movie is the horses that can fly through the sky with legs of fire. Keep going here with some music from James Horner. Here's one of the earliest pieces by James Horner. I'm going to be playing a lot of oddities this evening, not all of the usual stuff. There may be some pieces of music that you really love, some of the more popular pieces. Certainly I'll play a few of those, but these are pieces that I enjoy, and I'm just sharing with you some different interpretations of music. This one I really enjoy because I'm a big fan of horror films and Roger Corman, and this is one of James Horner's first, if not his first, Humanoids from the Deep, right here on WJRT. Thank you. The music of James Horner, a tribute to the late, great film composer who we lost yesterday in a very tragic accident. That was the main title and takeoff from another underappreciated classic, The Rocketeer, one of my favorite films as a young man. And that was a really interesting adventure film, hearkening back to the old serial movies from the 1940s. And that's also why I enjoy George Lucas. And Joe Johnston directed that one. Joe Johnston was one of the big effects guys over at Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas's special effects company, and he went on to be quite the director. One of my favorite films of Joe Johnston is October Sky. If you haven't seen that one, do yourself a favor and check it out. Joe Johnston also did the third Jurassic Park movie, which I enjoyed quite a bit. As I've said before, it reminded me about sort of like a Son of Kong feel to it. The music of James Horner here tonight, a tribute to one of the great film composers of our time. Have anything more magical? So yeah, some of you guys, maybe you're not understanding how this works. So some of the shows that we do, especially later at night, are all musical. So you won't really see anything. You can just sit back and enjoy the music. We might take some requests. But I do have quite a list of things here. Maybe I'll play something that you wanted to hear. So let's continue with the music of James Horner here. This musical tribute. Tried to put some things together for you that hopefully you will enjoy. Let's lighten things up a little bit here now with some music from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Here's a piece called Strange Neighbors. Jesus. That was the main title to Commando.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger. How are you? Turn right, turn left.
There was actually electronic music in the title score to Commando. For those of you saying that everything is electronic now, that is incorrect. There are a lot of great film composers, and certainly the legendary John Williams, thankfully, is still with us. Many film composers mixed electronic music with orchestral way back in the day. Certainly, Jerry Goldsmith was one of the people that did that very often, mixing strange electronic noises with orchestral. And some of the electronic scores, recently we've been treated to some wonderful electronic scores by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross and Daft Punk. So I would say that there is a nice mixture of both in the film world. And so to disdain one or the other is really not the way to go. Here's some more music from James Horner. We lost yesterday, certainly one of my favorite film composers, and a very tragic ending to a musical icon, to someone who has touched many of us, many of our lives. I grew up listening to a lot of James Horner's scores. As a kid, I really listened to a lot of orchestral music, a lot of classical music. And as I mentioned earlier, I would check out the albums from the local library and listen to them all day on a Sunday and just marvel at the images that were conjured up in my mind. And a lot of the key scenes in these movies you remember because of the music. And one of those movies was Cocoon. Oh my God. Oh God. Let the man rest in peace. Jesus. Spielberg has John Williams, and Ron Howard had James Horner. James Horner composed quite a bit of music for Ron Howard, and that was The Boys Are Out from Cocoon. Classic film from the 80s with one of the great casts of all time. Some wonderful performances in there. Don Amici certainly being one of them. One of my favorite albums to listen to is a comedy album called The Bickersons, which is early Don Amici radio comedy gold. If you've never heard it, listen to it. Another film that James Horner did the music for, also directed by Ron Howard, was A Beautiful Mind. We'll keep things going here on WJRT, the music of James Horner, tribute to the late, great James Horner, who passed away yesterday.
Music from Ron Howard's A Beautiful Mind by James Horner. That track was called A Kaleidoscope of Mathematics. I just mentioned it for you, so there you are, A Kaleidoscope of Mathematics. Interesting to note that I didn't care much for the film itself. I thought it was an okay movie, but the score is quite memorable and stands on its own, and I think that's a real tribute to the composer himself. Let's go now into outer space with some music from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. a stellar piece of music from James Cameron's Aliens that was Ripley's Rescue by James Horner. And love the sound of that piece. One of my favorite pieces from that score. And you really, really can hear the Marines in there, the sound of the machinery, and even the flavor of the aliens themselves. The music of James Horner here on Periscope. I'm Josh Robert Thompson. Sometimes we do comedy things on here and rants and puppets and other things, but I like to play a little music from time to time. Usually it's after midnight here on the West Coast, but I'm doing it a little bit early because I have to be to bed soon because I have somewhere to be tomorrow. Can't tell you where just yet, but it should be some interesting news. Let's continue now with some more music from Krull, because it is one of my favorite scores by James Horner. And this is a piece from Krull called The Slayer's Attack, the music of James Horner. little bit of Holst in there. You're listening to the Slayers' Attack from the score to Krull by James Horner. Half the playlist tonight was planned out. There were a handful of selections that I've thrown in. This is one of them. Exciting, swashbuckling, ominous, and terrifying all at the same time. It is a little bit of a longer piece tonight here on the program. The Slayers' Attack from James Horner's score to Krull. perhaps one of his best scores for me, certainly Willow being my favorite. Before that, we heard Ripley's Rescue from Aliens, and even before that, I did not give you the title of the piece from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. That one was Enterprise Clears Moorings. That was when we got to see the Enterprise return to form, and what a beautiful moment it is in film history. Continuing with making it up as I go along, as I sometimes enjoy doing, about half, maybe less than half of tonight's selections were pre-selected. There were a couple of pieces that were not available on Beats Music, so I had to find them on YouTube, of all places. And so that is where I opted to play all of these selections for tonight. Many of them I do own. Many of them I do have on vinyl. And I just decided, in the interest of keeping it streamlined, I would open them all up here on YouTube. Which is kind of nice in moments like these when you want to tribute one of the giants. Here's something that somebody mentioned earlier, and thank you for reminding me, because I meant to add it to the pile. This is one of James Horner's scores that I do have on vinyl, and it is another Roger Corman classic. Here is Battle Beyond the Stars. James Horner's second film score of his career, Battle Beyond the Stars. That was the main title. His first score, which we played a little bit earlier, was from Humanoids from the Deep, another Roger Corman production. Well, I'll be wrapping it up here soon on this musical tribute. I said this in a weird way, and then I decided to commit to the rest of the accent. This musical tribute to James Horner, one of the legendary film composers. We lost him yesterday in a very tragic accident. And I am a lover of film, as are many of you, and it was really very heartbreaking to hear the news, because it was such a shocking loss for the film world. Let's continue now with a few more pieces, maybe take a few requests, if you have any. But here's just a lovely, lovely piece of music. We'll continue with the science fiction music of James Horner. And here is Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. the majestic end titles to Star Trek III, The Search for Spock, by the late, great James Horner, who we lost yesterday, very tragically. And I thought one of the ways that I would deal with it would be to play a lot of the music of James Horner, which I've been doing this entire evening. If you missed any parts of the show, it will be up on Periscope at least for 24 hours until it's removed automatically. This is one of the few shows that I will keep up. Sometimes I do delete shows immediately because it will contain scenes from my own show that I'm working on. And I don't really want that stuff to get out into the world just yet. So that's how that works. My name is Josh Robert Thompson. If you want to know more about me, you can go to jrtvoices.com. We're going to get into some of the requests for this evening. I've been watching and paying attention to your requests for different types of musical scores from James Horner. A few of them I forgot about, and thank you for reminding me. Earlier, we played the main title to Battle Beyond the Stars, which someone had requested. And I remembered that I had that on vinyl, so thank you very much for reminding me of that. This other piece is yet another score that I have in my possession, but of course I do. It is the main title to Brainstorm. It's very hard not to get choked up during that one. That was Rose from James Horner's score to Titanic, and a very, very emotional film. And I chose that version instead of the vocal version or the Celine Dion version because I just prefer this one. But it's hard to listen to some of those pieces. That piece was very tough to listen to today. And if you didn't know, most of you do on here, but one of our great film composers, James Horner, died yesterday very tragically at a very young age. And, it makes me very sad, obviously, for his family and for those that were very close to him. But also, it's quite a great loss for lovers of film and future films that will no longer be scored by James Horner. Before that was one of my favorite pieces from Willow, Escape from the Tavern. This is one of the great chase sequences in that movie. And man, Val Kilmer was never better as Mad Mardigan in that movie. Just a few more songs left to go here on this musical tribute to James Horner here on Periscope, something a little bit different. For those of you not used to this, this is where I just play music. It's kind of like my own radio show, except it's on Periscope. And I am essentially playing music off of a Jambox Bluetooth speaker angled toward my phone and playing all of this music off of my laptop right now. Before that, what did I play before that? Brainstorm. Was that it? Sure it was. The title track to Brainstorm, which is a very difficult soundtrack to find. It was out of print for quite a long time. If you missed any portions of this show, it will be available for replay on Periscope 24 hours after I finish this broadcast. Now, I was going to play something right after that, but then I decided that that was probably going to be a little bit too sad, even for me. So let's see if we can find something else to play here for you. You know, James Horner did a lot of music for Ron Howard, as I mentioned before. I like the idea that filmmakers pick a composer that really goes well with their work, or a composer that understands exactly what the filmmaker needs. One of those other people was John Williams, and his incredible scores for Steven Spielberg and for George Lucas. Let's go over to the lighter side of James Horner, the more animated side of James Horner. James Horner did a couple of great scores for some really classic animated films back in the day. Don Bluth is an animator that is missed very dearly in the world of film. He had a very unique perspective and a fascinating look to his movies. That hand-drawn style of animation is something that I certainly would love to see more of. Here's the main title to An American Tail. was James Horner's score to An American Tail. James Horner also did the music for The Land Before Time, which we may play a little bit of if I'm able to. But right now I want to get into the longest piece of music that we'll be playing tonight, and one of the more newer compositions by James Horner for a film that really broke a lot of ground in the world of special effects. And yet another James Horner movie, James Horner score for James Cameron. This is my favorite piece from Avatar. Get nice and comfy. It clocks in a little over 11 minutes, and this is War. the full version of War from the Avatar score. That was James Cameron's Avatar. Not to be confused with the M. Night Shyamalan film. This is a musical tribute to the late, great James Horner. We lost James yesterday, very tragically, and so I thought, well, I will play some of my favorite songs, some of my favorite pieces of music, and then I've played some things that you've requested as well. There was someone saying that I didn't play Willow. I've played quite a bit of Willow. I've played a couple of pieces from Willow, as a matter of fact. But if you missed any of that, you can always listen to the replay once this broadcast ends. It will be up on Periscope for the next 24 hours.
Music's going to play a big part in this movie too.
Oh, yeah.
The bagpipes. How are you going about choosing your
Musical.
source music and just?
Well, we're just doing temp at the moment. Steve pulls bits. We got a lot of discs and stuff that we use. But Steve just puts it on to fit the rhythm, and you like to cut the music.
I like to cut the music. Yeah. Well, also the composer will come in and write music for the whole picture.
He's probably working on it as we speak.
41. 1, 2, 3.
The guy who's writing the score and writing all the music, James Horner, is, he's one of the best. I really like his work, and I think he's going to do the best score of his whole life. I think it's just going to be terrific from yapping to him, talking to him, and listening to little bits.
It really affects the mood of the film, too. Oh, yeah. Music is, ties it all up. And really can make it soar.
But also in a picture like this, you're not hearing any effects. I mean,
Yeah.
this is just
right.
production tracks, essentially, which means I have people screaming, but I don't have the sound of real arrows. I don't have any of that. I don't have anybody getting hit by an arrow and screaming. There's nothing. And as soon as the sound effects come in, it brings it all to life.
Oh, yeah.
So you mean Mel's not going to do all the arrow effects?
Yeah. Only for the previews.
The music of James Horner. The end credits to Apollo 13 by Ron Howard, another Ron Howard film. James Horner was Ron Howard's guy when it came to scoring a lot of his films. And well, that's going to do it for this show. And thank you so much for those of you that stuck around and listened to the work of James Horner. He will definitely be missed. But this music will live on forever. I think it's appropriate then to go out with this piece of music, which is from one of my favorite science fiction movies of all time. And we played a couple of tracks from it before. But I think it's very fitting because of the way that this film ends. On a hopeful note. And maybe somewhere out there, James Horner is still making music. I'm Josh Robert Thompson. This has been my own personal tribute to the music of James Horner. Thank you for your suggestions. I was happy to play them and very happy to share this with you. I hope it meant as much to you as it does to me. Mr. Horner, thank you very much for your music. We salute you.
Space. The final frontier. These are the continuing voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Their ongoing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone.